It seems that any direction you go from the center of Epernay will lead you to yet another charming Champagne village. Not far from Epernay is the city of Meurille-sur-Aille, and an exclusive invitation to a family-owned estate producing champagne since 1818. Marriage has had much to do with the forming of many champagne houses. Such was the case with Billecart-Salmon, created with the marriage of François Billecart and Elizabeth Salmon. Today we are having a tour and meeting with the sixth-generation great-grandson, Antoine Billecart, for an exclusive Le Culture du Vin interview. Billecart-Salmon is a family house started in 1818 with the marriage between the Billecart family and the Salmon family of Côte de Blanc. Nearly 200 years later, it is being run by the current generation of Billecarts, a father and his two sons. First, we start with a tour.
Here we are into the Clos Saint-Hilaire. Saint-Hilaire is the patron saint of the village, and the Clos Saint-Hilaire is the name of our prestige cuvée. We prepare that prestige cuvée only when the year is good enough to make a vintage, with that single plot of Pinot Noir. To call it a Clos, it must be walled at least on 3 sides, it must be a one-piece plot, and it must be very close to the vinification facilities. Here we are into our press room. Nowadays we use only pneumatic presses because we think that those are more gentle than the old ones. We are going to press the first time very gently to get the purest, the finest juice, which is called the cuvée. At Billecart-Salmon we use only the first press, only the cuvée.
The pressing of the grapes creates a must, which is then put into refrigerated settling tanks. The cold settling process allows everything in suspension that might create bad taste in the wine to settle to the bottom of the tank. Once the settling is completed, the juice is filtered and transferred into steel tanks and oak barrels for the first alcoholic fermentation. At Billecart-Salmon, the best juices go into the barrels which have been used for 5 years to produce only white Burgundy, reducing the tannins in the oak. The wines from the barrels will age for 6 months before blending with wines from the stainless steel tanks. Billecart-Salmon's blending process of wines into champagne is approached lovingly with a quest for creating perfection.
We are more into a Pinot Noir section. When Nicolas François Billecart founded the house in 1818, he was very much onto a Pinot Noir style, but he married Elizabeth Salmon, and Elizabeth Salmon family had a lot of vines in the Côte de Blanc, which was Chardonnay. So then that Chardonnay came into that Pinot Noir. So a part of being married, they blended. You know, blending seems very simple, but it's not. Because to be very constant in the style, you have just to ensure that the style of what you get in terms of vinification correspond to obviously what you really want to show. You know, it's like an artist playing with 30 or 32 colors. And you have to reach 1 or 2. But you have just to make sure that that color is going to hold for a certain time. You may not get it on one day, but then the day after or even later, that's it, you just got it. You say, wow, what that? And then you say, oh, all right, you got this, you got that, boom, 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 boom. And that's what I think what is fascinating about blending in champagne. It's a great cooking session. And that's why it's important, I think, to remind that first of all, champagne is a wine before being a champagne.
Your family has been in Champagne for, I believe you said, 7 generations, yes?
Ages.
Ages. We'll go with ages, yes, ages.
Centuries.
Centuries.
Let's go that way. And, you know, in 4 years' time, which is going to be 2018, we will celebrate our 200.
What is it like to be in a family with this much of the heritage tied into the production of wine?
It's a challenge. It's a real challenge. The real challenge is after 6, 7 generations to pass to the 8th in the best possible condition. Hey, that's all you can do. We're just temporary visitors on Earth, all right?
Yes.
The real challenge is to show that the difference of the difference. Well, that's the way I say it. You have to show the difference of the difference. And in terms of vinification, it's important. For us, it's important to concentrate on what we're doing, because in the glass, you have to show that difference. And you just have to make sure it's going to be what you want. My dad is always reminding us to that. When we are doing our final tasting, and he keeps telling us, hey, you guys, don't think only of you. Think about who's going to be sitting at the table in a restaurant, who's going to buy the bottles and drink it. And I think it's a real nice challenge, you know, to say, no, let's do not mass production, but let's do, again, small, but concentrate on food quality.
After blending, the wine is bottled and prepared for a second fermentation, where a mixture of yeast and sugar called the liqueur de tirage is added, and the bottles are then stacked onto slats. The fermentation begins after 1 week as the yeast consumes the sugar, producing the carbonation, and lasts for a period of 6 weeks. When the yeast has consumed all the sugar, it dies and becomes the lees, which is the sediment from the process which imparts the delicate flavors and aromas in the wine. The wines will age on slats a minimum of 3 years to 12 years, depending on the vintage status of the bottle. The longer the aging, the smaller the bubbles in the finished champagne. The bottles are then taken off slats and turned upside down, being turned each day to trap the sediment in the neck. The final step is to dip the neck into a solution to freeze the wine and sediment that has settled there. The cap is removed and the pressure forces the ice cube from the neck, removing the lees from the bottle, and the final step called discouragement. Well, it has been a fascinating day spending time with our friends at Billecart-Salmon and touring their lovely estate. Now we're going to head to Reims for a quick tour of the city and an amazing light spectacle at the Cathedral Notre Dame de Reims.